Guys, I think we can start. We have more than 50 people here. So this event is about all about like from inspiration to IPO. So our speaker is Sid Park. So he hosts a podcast, is an angel investor, author, has degrees from some of the biggest universities that you have heard of. He works at the companies that has changed pretty much everything in the Indian internet. So that's pretty much about him. So over to you, Sid.
Okay, thanks, Electron, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. A hearty good evening to everyone. Yeah, so today's topic is very interesting. We're talking about inspiration to IPO, and we're going to talk about everything accelerators, incubators, how to fundraise startups, and especially the heat is actually growing because tomorrow, I think one of the biggest IPOs in our Indian ecosystem, Zomato IPO, is going to get launched, and then there will be Paytm IPO, Nika, and so many other IPOs are going to follow, right? So today we're going to talk about a lot of things. We'll probably start with the basics for 5 minutes in terms of what is who is an angel investor, or what is an incubator, and what is an accelerator, and try to understand the difference because a lot of folks actually are confused there itself. What is the difference between an incubator and an accelerator? And then I think, once we are done with the FAQs, like, what are the stages of the application process for an accelerator? Or, what is the equity dilution that happens as you start up from your ideation to your inspiration, and from your inspiration to several stages towards your IPO, right? What kind of equity dilution does a founder go through? That we're going to talk about, and some basic concepts in case if anyone wants to understand. We can spend a few minutes in MVP, and like ARR, MRR, and CAC, and all those things, but we'll not spend a lot of time on that. The other thing that we're going to talk about is basically there are some thumb rules of fundraising, so some call it the golden rules, or some do's and don'ts kind of thing. So we are going to talk about 5 or 6 of them. And then I think one of the critical takeaways for any aspirational CEOs, CTOs, and startup founders will be the questions that they get asked in early stages of funding and in the later stages of funding. So these are all going to be there. At the end of it, if you'd like, I can actually give you guys a list of incubators within India, in US and Europe, and a list of accelerators also within India and across the world. I'm going to cover 6 accelerators and incubators today, starting from Y Combinator. We'll dive to Techstars and 100x VC, and then Antler, Sequoia Search, and VCATS. So guys, you can start writing down your questions, at whatever level they are, and then we can try to take up those questions in a batch, maybe let's say after 20 minutes. Yeah. So, just to get started, I think, one of the key questions that I get asked a lot is, what is it that an accelerator does that is something different from an incubator? So also one of the things is, once you have your light bulb of idea lit up, and you have grown through the ideation stage about protecting your idea, giving out a little bit, and then deliberating the idea with your family and friends and peers, and then talking to the industry folks. Once that ideation stage is through, then you typically become like an early stage kind of a prototype maker, not a founder, but a prototype maker. And you still try to evaluate a lot of things, right? At this stage, while you are like a solo kind of a prototype maker, there is a lot of things that are actually not there in terms of resources and all, right? But then your idea is also not like a proven kind of an idea with validations from the industry. You don't have a lot of customers. At this stage is where an incubator comes in. Incubators typically take guys in with the ideas. They help solve the technical and design issues, when building the product. They help you learn how to run a lean and mean team with and build a successful team with legal and all other stuff as well. So basically, incubators help startups who don't have experience, operating in a venture-backed kind of a system, or have no knowledge of legals and operational kind of things, or have no company structure as such. So that is number one. So that is how the incubators work. Sometimes what happens is, even before the incubators, a lot of folks go to someone called as the angel investor. So angel investors are typically could be your friends and family, who probably have a lot of faith in your idea, or they could be guys with ticket size going from $500,000 to maybe $1 million, and they are typically guys in the industries uh, with specific interests in specific sectors. That could be blockchain, that could be health tech, food tech, ed tech, or mental health, or whatsoever. So that is also a niche kind of thing. Coming to the accelerator part of it, right? So accelerators are generally they fall in the place where you have like a validated MVP in place. So when I say validated MVP, is you are much beyond the idea stage, and you are into the most viable product stage, wherein the product works. There is some kind of a product market fit that you are aware of. You have a loyal customer base of more than 10, 20 or so, and then you have like a good founding team also. You're not probably a solo entrepreneur. In a lot of cases they would ask for 2 to 4 entrepreneurs to be on the founders teams, right? So founder plus 3 co-founders, a founder plus 2 co-founders, that types. That is another thing. You also see kind of a significant traction in terms of a lot of folks keep talking about traction, but traction is basically, it's like a rolling stone. You don't need the kind of advertising and marketing all the time. It's more or less through the word of mouth that you get referred to a lot. And it's kind of, it's not only product market fit, but it's also like a founder market fit. So we'll talk about all these terms if anyone wants to know about these terms. But so that's where an accelerator comes in. Um, some of the key things that accelerator provide are some networking opportunities, and great access to established companies and influencers. For example, if you get into Y Combinator, you'll probably, depending on your sector, you will get to meet the best guys in the Silicon Valley, probably in Europe and in Istanbul, or wherever the best things are happening. Maybe if it's information security, Israel also, right? So that is one. So other than personal guidance, there is a lot of collaboration and partnerships that you can go on with your other innovative startups, and that's how I think that's where accelerators help a bit more. So that is the basic difference between an incubator and accelerator. Is it clear to everyone? If it's not clear, probably we can I can just if some point is not clear, we can I think it's kind of clear, seems like. All right. So yeah, we can move on to the other important stage, that is, what are the different stages in the application process for an accelerator, right? So there are 5 essential stages which are common to all kinds of applications. The first is actually whatever idea you have, right? You talk about the idea as such, like, make a story out of it, and you actually tell about why are you building such product, or what is it for customers to actually buy your product. So you talk about your team, market, the traction and all these things in the first stage of the application. Once you go through the first stage, so it's like a funnel, so there could be like 3,000 to 10,000 applications coming in. A company like accelerator like Y Combinator, they get more than 200,000 applications every semester. They do like a winter and a summer kind of thing, so they get more than 200,000 applications. So that is the first stage. It is almost like the JE and UPSC kind of a thing. A lot of applications come in. The second stage, once you go to that application stage, second is where there is assessment, and a lot of promising teams from across the globe, that they will move to the investability kind of a stage, whether a company is even investable or not. Uh, or they will decide that on the basis of the revenue potential, and the overall strength of the product and the service offering. So there are quite a few quite a few triggers that actually go into the interest of the investor, whether the founders are good, how is their background, what kind of experience do the founders bring in. If there is no experience as such, then it's kind of a bit tricky, if there is nothing proven earlier. I think the third thing that matters the most is the intellectual property. If the company, the ideation guys try to bring in, and intellectual property could be again, like a copyright or a trademark, or any of those sorts, or a patent as well. So that is also essential. Then they would ask you typically about the business models and the revenue models. Business models are again, plethora of business models are there. Typically they would you can find them under 12 categories, but there are much more. And I mean, razor and blade, inverse razor and blade, and affiliate, and so many, right? And then there is the revenue model that gets talked about a lot. I think that is one of the key focuses for a lot of investors. Then customers, one of the key things that they decide upon for the investment is the risks, and there are different types of risks again: market risks, execution risk, product risk, all sorts of risks. So all these factors are taken into consideration along with competition, supply and demand, and the human psychology as well. Sometimes the product works essentially according to the human psychology or sentiments or the need of the hour. Like for example, in the pandemic, every kind of product does not work. Yeah, so once you're done with the second stage of assessment, the third stage is essentially the interview, actual interview. A lot of folks call it the D-Day. And in the interview, it would not take more than 30 to 40 minutes for the interview with the core team. And you actually have to provide a lot of evidence of, your product actually has got some traction. You should show actual metrics of, it has so many number of downloads. These are the number of weekly users or monthly users. This is what they're using the product for. These are the impressions. So all these kind of things are going to be provided. I'm also going to talk about the document section that we have to actually deliver to the investors, probably towards the end of it, and probably share a cheat sheet as well. Once you're done with the interview stage, then the evaluation of the interview comes in. And in the evaluation stage, majorly they discuss about the revenue statements, if there are any. If it's a pre-revenue, then probably, the customer lifetime value is kind of debated. And then whether the company is in good legal standing, that is another thing that is discussed. And whether there are any claims or bad blood spilled by the company earlier, in terms of any geography. Sometimes what happens is a company spills some bad blood and moves on to some other geography. So this kind of a blacklisting, whitelisting happens in this particular stage. And the final stage, guys, is the acceptance stage, wherein whatever the investment committee decides basis the first four stages, they will schedule the program for you, a customized program for you, that will go from 3 to 4 months if it's a good accelerator. If it's an incubator, of course, it's a long term kind of a thing. So almost, I think anyone who makes up to the evaluation stage, typically 50% definitely make it to the acceptance stage as well. So that was that. Any questions till now, guys? What is traction? Traction is basically, once your product actually finds a fit, right, in the market. So let's say there is some kind of cupcake that you're making, right, which is full of vitamins and nutrients. Like you have those gummy bears, right? You're making some kind of a cupcake, and how does it sell? Whether people are actually liking it, whether there is a demand kind of a thing. If it is like it's a perishable item, then how do you package it? How are you going to refrigerate it? And whether there is good acceptance in terms of the different segments of the society. So in a way, it is about establishing your target segment, your TG as well, when we talk about traction. But it's more to do with is this products speeding up or it's speeding down? Generally, if it's speeding up, we say that the traction is good. You see some movement upwards. So that is what traction is. Yeah, man. Suspicious Mew. Yeah, that G reference definitely hurts. It hurts a lot of us. Um, cool, cool. And Apple too. Yeah, we are talking about accelerators and incubators. Accelerators are basically, a later kind of a stage when you have a minimum viable product. And incubators are once you have an idea, you don't need to have an MVP. You can still get funding. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is, what are you keep hearing about pre-series A, seed, or series B, and all these sorts of things, right? So what all what do these things mean? Any other questions before that? Are we clear on the differences between an incubator and accelerator, or do you want me to uh, probably go through it one more time in terms of founders? Yeah, clear. All right, great. So we can great, great, Pablo. Killer Jadu, it's clear. That's good. So we can probably move to the next stage uh, of equity dilution, or probably yeah, equity dilution is one of the questions again I get asked a lot. So typically if you get funded, then how does your equity get affected? So should we move to equity dilution, or are you interested in getting to know the different stages of how does it work in let's say, what are the series A and those kind of things? Is just let me know. Okay. All right. Okay. Equity dilution. All right. Okay, you want to know how? Yeah. All right. So I think we can talk about equity dilution. Um, so when it comes to equity dilution, there are a lot of ways in this also works. Um, let me talk about probably the standard ways. And I hope everyone is clear on pre-seed, seed, pre-series A, series B, and so on and so forth, right? Because I think that understanding will be required at this. Cool, cool. All right. So let's suppose you have your founders and you have 100% stake right now, right? Two or three founders, you have 100% stake. The way equity dilution works is when the accelerator comes in or the incubator comes in, they will ask you for 6 to 7% of your stake. In exchange of what they are providing. And what do they typically provide? They would either provide you, like technical facilities, a physical space. They would provide you business support, or they would provide you training and mentoring. Sometimes it is like a cohort-based education program also for 3 to 4 months, wherein they move your idea very very fast. So that's why it's called an accelerator, because what you probably would do in 2 to 3 years, you end up doing in 3 to 4 years. So that is another thing. Um, so you have to give up 6 to 7% for in the first kind of stage. When you move to the angel round, right after the accelerator round, they will introduce you to a lot of angels if they see that the product is great, and if it finds its fit, right? In the angel round, typically, again, the accelerator might be interested in 5% of the stake, and the angel might take up to 15 to 20%, depending on what kind of how big the angel is coming in. So if it's like it's a niche product, then typically they would take up to 20% of your stake. And then if it's like a group of small angel investors like me, that stake would be somewhere around 15%. 15 angels come together, kind of thing. So there you total, you could uh, lose up to 20% of the stake for a substantial gain there. So now you might have somewhere around 75%. And this I'm talking about more than 6 months down into the product from the actual launch. So these stages actually take a lot of time. It's not going to happen very, very easily. And there are multiple roundups that you have to make. So this is the stage of the angel, and after that, at the angel stage, the set is pretty much all well established. Then you go to the Series A round where you would ask for a lot of scalability. Right, your product is there, it's found a fit, and when it goes to Series A, the bigger players come in. Like Tiger Global or Sequoia, all these kind of bigger players, SoftBank, these kind of players come in, and they would ask for a substantial stake there as well. So typically, you should be ready to dilute maybe, I don't know, 12.5% to 25% of your stake, depending on whether you're planning to give ESOPs also. So 12.5% is and up is what they are interested in. So at this stage, you are left with probably around 47 to 50% of the stake. And as the rounds progress, right, from here onwards, as the rounds progress, then your stakes probably will go on decreasing. So today, let's take an example of Flipkart, right? So today, if you talk about Vinny Bansal, he probably has only 3% of the stake from where they started. They have sold, Sachin Bansal has sold his stake, and then it has been sold multiple times across to Walmart and to to angels and all. So today they have only 3% of the stake that is there. So yeah, that was it about equity dilution. Any questions there? Do artificial valuations matter at a very early stage? What do you mean by artificial valuations? Can you just and some information about that? All right. Okay. Uh, Once you don't have enough data to come up with good valuation. Right. Yeah. So see, valuation is a very tricky kind of a thing. A lot of folks try to poke to fake a lot of valuations. So that's where there is a 15-point matrix, and then there are methods to come up with valuations. There is something called as Berker's method. There is a scorecard, and you do RCF, risk factor summation, and discounted cash flow. There are so many methods, but typically, for I think for general purposes, it's more to do with what the intellectual property the product is going to generate, what is the business model and revenue model, what are the execution risks that are there, and what kind of customer base you are able to generate, along with some traction. If that is already evaluated and you are at a later stage, then the questions of supply and demand, and the current market condition and the competitors also come in. Hope that actually gives you some idea. Naman is asking how to value company in ideation and MVP stage. Yeah, so it's called as pre-seed and pre-money kind of valuation, and it is a kind of a tricky thing. Um, but that's why a lot of big fishes will not put in a lot of money in that stage. That's where the angel investors would come in, and during that stage, typically if you have more than some kind of a user base that is there, or if not a user base, if your friends and family are using the product, And see, MVP is kind of a elusive kind of a thing. It is not always going to be there. So uh, it will more or less depend on all these factors. Sometimes combined of all these factors, or sometimes if the founders are well known, second time founders or entrepreneurs. Typically, people will invest in them readily, and there is also the sense of the technology, or the weather, the air of what is working. So right now, anything blockchain or artificial intelligence or creator economy will typically work, because that is what is in demand. So any good product around that will definitely work. So that is again another thing. All right. So this question about pre-seed and all, how does it happen, right? So what we call as pre-seed is basically the idea stage. So you have nothing but the idea, and this is what happens in Europe and US a lot, because the idea has to be absolutely fantastic. And this stage, if you just have the idea, you can get from $100,000 to $500,000 just for this stage. But the idea has to be very good. It has to be appealing. It has to be unique. Sometimes a kind of a prototype is required to be associated with the idea, but sometimes that is discounted if the credibility of the founder and co-founder is kind of good. So that's the pre-seed stage. It does not go beyond $500,000. So $100,000 is where the ticket size starts, and it does not go beyond $500,000. Next comes the very famous seed stage that everyone, every company we hear about, they keep talking about it. That is like the idea is already there. The MVP is already done. It is actually in the product stage, but the product is not like a full-fledged kind of a thing. It's still an initial product. There might be some lacunae in the product. Um, but it works. It solves the problem it has embarked to solve. And at this stage, in the seed stage, the funding that you can get is 500,000 and above, but there is a cap of $3 million. So you probably at a seed stage, a lot of companies do not get beyond. Most companies will not get beyond $3 million. There have been exceptions in the past year when a company has got around $40 million also on the seed stage. But these exceptions are very, very, very rare. So that's the seed stage, guys. Then comes the seed stage is also sometimes called the pre-series A. But the distinction is pre-series A would typically mean 1 million to 3 million, not 500,000 to 3 million. So that is the only distinction between seed and pre-series A. Otherwise, I think it is pretty much the same. One additional thing that the pre-series A can ask for is the product market fit. Whether the product has actually found its right segment and the market loves your product or not. Are the customers engaging and using your product or not? So that is like the pre-series A. So that will go again from 1 million to 3 million. And then comes your series A, which again we read about it in the news a lot. So the series A will go 3 million and upwards. And there is a very, very strong signal of product market fit. So like Mama Earth had recently, or like Beardo had, or Paytm obviously has already established it. Zomato and all sorts of companies have gone through Series A. We know that everyone knows about the product as such, right? It has a very strong signal, and it is like it becomes a need. It's not like people can absolutely live without it. It's not that. It kind of becomes a need in your lifestyle. So that's where I think a lot of companies get the Series A funding, going from 3 million. Generally, the cap on that is up to 10 million. So Series A will go from 3 to 10. Um, the second last stage that we're going to talk about is the Series B, and that is 10 million plus. It can go up to 50 million also sometimes, or sometimes more also. That's where your product market fit is established, everything is established, and all you need to do is scale it like crazy, not only within your limited local geography, but a national geography or an international geography. Probably add a lot of features, use a lot of cloud computing and use a lot of resources, try to optimize it and uh, make it go on all the platforms, all sorts of devices. So that's where the Series B would come in. That will be 10 million plus. And after that, it's like, Series C, D, E, and onwards. The product is very much mature. We typically they typically still get called as startups, but they are not startups as such, and they have like a huge customer base and a huge user base. So that is what Series C, D, and E will result into. Hope that gives you some kind of an idea there as well. Does it give you an idea? Should we move on to the next points? Okay. How to reach out to incubators or select incubators specific to domain of the startup. Also, what to mail them, pitch deck or just, yeah, exactly. We are going to talk about this. What all, I actually have a list of a few incubators and accelerators with their emails and everything as well. So probably I can probably coordinate with Electron on how do we go about giving this list to you guys as well. Yes, and we are now going to talk about what all documents are required in terms of pitch deck, in terms of legal documents, in terms of, how do you go about preparing these. But before that, I think, the one of the most important thing to understand is, I believe most of you guys will be working your ideas on the seed and pre-seed kind of stages. So during this time, there are four important things that we need to understand. First, like I mentioned, is the why. Why are you actually creating this product? So that is accompanied by a beautiful story. You should tell the story in an appealing way on why did you even get into this? What prompted you? Is it your passion or is it something that you saw? Whether a business really needed to be built in this area, and how is it different than other businesses. Let's say, there was already a Zomato and you are Swiggy and you're trying to come in. So since a business is already existing, what is it different that you are doing? What is special in terms of either your product or your marketing strategy, or your the execution strategy, cloud kitchens or whatever it is. So what is different that you're doing, right? And then they will obviously ask you in the story what kind of money you are trying to raise, right? But the most important thing that they want to notice, the investors want to notice, is whether you are really passionate about what you're doing. This money is actually very very secondary when it comes to the story. So try not to focus on the money part in the when you're telling the story. Second that comes to the mind is whether there are already existing customers that are using your product, and how are they using the product. Because sometimes you actually embark on creating a product, and it is used in a very different way than what you actually foresaw. uh, so that is one thing that they like to see. Again, the question of traction comes in here, whether you are getting good traction or not, whether the amount of success that you're seeing is only surface level success, and beneath it's people are installing but again uninstalling the applications very very soon. So that is the kind of metrics that will be addressed in this thing. The third thing is the kind of team that you have, whether you have someone experienced on your team, whether there are a couple of techie guys on your team, whether the kind of product that you're building, the team has the kind of network to run the company as bootstrapped, if it is required to. If it is required to scale to millions of people, millions of users in a very short span of time, can the team together achieve this or not? So all these items typically get asked as well in the stage. And the last but not the least is about the market. Whether what are you trying to create? Whether you are trying to create a market which is like a, if not a blue ocean, but at least not unsaturated. So there should not be a ceiling that is reached for that market. So let's say you're trying to create something for pets, like pet salons are like the in thing. If you're trying to create pet salons or probably food delivery for pets, then is there a market for that in a country like India? Probably 1%, less than 1% folks will be interested in that kind of a thing. So all these kind of questions get asked in this stage. Moving to the next stage, so what kind of before actually moving to the next stage, before moving to the next stage, we can talk about um, uh, you know if you actually move from, let's say, pre-seed to series A, then what kind of a thing is required? Is the earlier part clear? Should we move to the this stage, or should we move to the documents directly? Okay, what if business fails? What stage does it fail? Okay, documents. We move to documents. Yes. What stage does it fail? Sunny, what are you asking? Like, what if business fails? Like, once you get the funding, right? Yeah. So if in the seed stages, if the business fails, then uh, see, the companies are typically ready. Uh, they will either ask you to pivot. Pivot is basically try the product in a different way, because if you have done thorough analysis, there are the the companies will only invest after thorough analysis. And if you have done the thorough analysis, then there is a kind of a reduced chance of the business failing, right? Although having said that, 9 out of 10 businesses do fail, and the venture capitalists, accelerators are kind of ready with that. But what if it succeeds? That's the question that they ask themselves. What if it succeeds? Then that $1 or 1 rupee they have invested, it can go to $2,000 or 2,000 rupees, right? So that is the optimism which a lot of founders and VCs drive themselves. So the question should be inverted. What if it succeeds? And that's where you. So that is one of the key things of an entrepreneur. They're always optimistic about the ideas and always get. Success ratio is always 1%, no matter if it's startups or interns. Exactly, man. Apple too. You said it. If whatever it is, so success ratio will be less. But again, very few people dare to go behind that kind of success. So that is there. Any other questions, any other queries anyone has? Or else we can move to the next stage of the what kind of documents are required. Damon and Sunny are typing something. Let me just take a quick water break as well. All right. So should we, does the startup founder owe the venture capitalist something after their startups fail? In most cases, no. So, because see, the venture capitalists only come in at a very, very later stage. It won't happen that, within the first 6 months or 1 year, even after your product launches, the venture VCs come in. Typically, till that time, you will be either be bootstrapped, which is the best strategy. A lot of companies like Zoho and all are still bootstrapped. So bootstrapping is basically doing things by yourself, because see, at the end of the day, revenue is kind of a god. Funding can be like an angel, for in your life, but revenue is the actual god when it comes to, and revenue can only come from customers. So unless the venture capitalists see a lot of revenue and a lot of customers, they will not be willing to fund you. So that kind of risk reward ratio is already taken into consideration. A comparative analysis is done. So I hope that helps understand that. Can you throw some light on revenue generation, how the founder gets revenue and all? Revenue generation, different folks have different kind of ideas. So there are different business models. There are 12 business models to be specific. You can either do strategic partnerships, the way you go about doing your marketing and advertising, that also depends on it. Word of mouth, affiliate kind of a relationship. Then there are some interesting models like razor and blade model. So when Gillette came to India, or any other country for that matter, it actually it sold the blade at a very reasonable price of 10 rupees or something. But the real catch was not the razor blade, It was actually the blade that was there that comes along, and they sold the blades at a very expensive kind of a thing. So that any kind of model. So for example, McDonald's has a different kind of a model, franchisee kind of a model. Amazon has all sorts of ensemble kind of models. So there will be, all sorts of models of revenue generation. But revenue generation is a different topic in itself. Probably we can take it up some other day. Hopefully, if it's this is all clear, we can move to the documents stage of, or before that even, if you are actually beyond Series A, there are a couple of more things than, uh, are required. So they'll actually check whether the founders are full time. You cannot probably keep investing in share market or doing your job and you are doing this as well. You have to be fully focused, probably 15 to 18 hours a day on your startup. You have to make sure that this venture is scalable, probably from 10,000 people to 100,000 people, and from 100,000 to probably a million people. So that has to be there. There also has to be like a moat. You must be hearing about moat a lot. Moat is nothing but creating an entry barrier for other competitors. Otherwise, anyone can just copy your idea and your business, replicate it, probably have bigger muscles in terms of money and execution, and create a competitive product, right? So what is your core moat is also what they will ask for it. And then they will also see who else is investing, right, at the VC level, or accelerators. They will see who else is investing, whether your family and friends trust you, whether the smaller angel investors have trusted you and actually have got good returns. So that is like a social proof also for them. um, Moving on to the final section, guys. So the documents that are required, right? So the first and the foremost important thing is the pitch deck. You know, so I have been on multiple panels and juries. I have seen thousands of pitch decks, but it's very rare that first time founders get the pitch decks right. So a lot of thought has to be put, when you create the outline of the pitch deck. There has to be answers to the questions that are probably not asked yet, but you will get asked, right? So the answers have to be already be there. There have to be metrics that you have to mention inside. So numbers speak volumes, right? So the metrics have to be there in terms of your users, the drop rates, and the actual numbers, rather than, because a lot of folks will try to tweak those metrics also. They will just try to show the metrics that work in their favor. But the VCs are kind of very strict on getting all the standard metrics. So also the pitch deck is like a representation of your whole company as such, in a visual kind of a format, and you got to tell them stories and build charts there as well. If you try to keep it crisp with your charts and stories, I think that's a very good way to go about it. Don't be very don't write too many pages, and keep the slides very crisp. Don't take it too much into the depth as well, because these kind of things, they get circulated over email or sometimes over WhatsApp also to different folks. And if you are sending them like 40 or 50 slides, the VCs will immediately lose interest. So it should be somewhere around 10 to 15 slides at max. There are a lot of interesting pitch decks that I have, right from Airbnb to your recent Zomato. Probably one of these days we can actually talk about these pitch decks also. So in these pitch decks also get shared to your limited partners, that are like there in the ecosystem of the VCs as well. So that is the first and the most important thing. The second is the product vision document. So product vision document will typically, you'll have to go ahead and explain why are you building, what are you building, why is it different, what is the long-term vision, mid-term vision, and short-term vision of this product, and where does the product lie compared to the competition. If there is absolutely no competition, that is the best place to be in. But no matter what, there will be competition in some geography, some sector, or some subsector, or in some way, right? So you have to be realistic about it, and you have to tell which probably it's a quadrant. Where does it like? It's like the leader side of things, or it's a laggard, or where does it exactly lie? So that is the second thing after pitch deck, product vision document. The third thing is a data kind of a document. So there are multiple data documents that are there, but data document probably will have all sorts of not only numbers in terms of how many customers are signed up, the whole data of the customers, whatever can be shared, anonymously. Uh, then the active users, what is the retention rate, what is the DAU, MAU, WAU, what is the net. Yeah, sorry about that. What is the net promoter score? Um, there is something called as churn as well, churn and revenue. So data document will comprise of that as well. I hope it is this is clear. We can talk about the last point, that is the cap table. Cool. How can you prevent people with more resources from copying your idea and producing at a larger level? How do we safeguard our idea, and if the mentioned situation takes place, how would we take an action towards it? Yeah, man. So, blip blop, sometimes, it is important to safeguard your ideas, but it is actually more important to let your idea in the open, let people talk about it, let people, you'll get multiple perspectives about it. If someone wants to copy it, they can definitely see. If Zomato and Swiggy are doing it tomorrow, Amazon is going to come back and copy that idea and use their muscle to take it to a bigger level. So sometimes it is important to safeguard your ideas, sometimes it works to let the idea go up, out, and uh, see the mode that you create, right? The barrier to entry, that has to be in a way in which it is not kind of easily scalable for the companies with a bigger size as well. If you do your groundwork and grassroots kind of work very properly, then you create a kind of a good moat. But most of the times, even if someone copies your idea, for example, if we can take example of probably Polygon. Polygon is into crypto, and they also supported something called as an Insta app, right? If they In that, they created like a third party kind of a integration of different platforms, similar to what Bharat Pay also did, right? Bharat Pay was already a QR code generator, and so were Google Pay, Amazon, so many others like Paytm and others. They came and integrated that thing. So they started creating a moat, and once you create a moat, you have a good hands you have a good hands-on kind of a experience and a grip on your customers, with either the UI, the intuitiveness, or the easy to go, all these kind of things. So I think that probably is that again is a bigger question. How does dilution work with within co-founders? Yeah, so there is something called as a co-founder agreement, wherein typically you would create. So if there are four co-founders, for example, let's say 20% each is kept for by the co-founders, and 20% you would either give for in the initial stages to give to the accelerators or to the VCs and the ESOP pool. So co-founder agreement is what, and then dilution is equal. You write it in the co-founder agreement, whatever you agree upon, that as the stakes go on, you keep diluting either 1%, 2%, 5% on whatever you mutually agree. But that is very important to do it in the early stage. uh cool. Any other questions, guys? So let me just summarize what all we have discussed, and we can move to the last segment, which is the accelerators that we're going to talk about. Why Combinator, Techstars, 500 startups, VCats, Surge, and 100x. So if there are no other questions, probably we can move to that section. Can you paste the list here? Which list? I can actually probably Electron, and I think Viraj is also back. Probably I can coordinate with both of them, and I'm going to give you the cheat sheet. And definitely I can give you the cheat sheet. Oh, Y Combinator. Oh, this one. I'm going to definitely talk about it, man. And I have like an exhaustive list of more than 50 very good accelerators. I am also going to share a, a massive list of 100 plus accelerators within India, across the globe. More than 50 incubators within India, and more than 50 again outside, outside India, across the globe. So I'm going to share all of that with all of you guys, probably in a Notion doc or something. If not today, maybe in a couple of days, but definitely I'll try to do it tonight itself. I hope that helps. Cool, cool. All right. Yeah. So moving on to the last section. If anyone wants to come up on stage and talk, that's also fine. Or else we move to the last section where we are going to spend probably 5 more minutes. Okay, great, great, Electron. So let's go to the last section. So, Y Combinator. I think all of us have heard of Y Combinator. So if you have heard of any of the products like Airbnb, Dropbox, or Stripe, or Twitch as well, these all products come from Y Combinator. Any crypto guys, probably Coinbase as well, right? So these are all products that come from Y Combinator as a, yeah, yeah. Obviously, you've heard of it. So they all come from Y Combinator. They were started. That this was started by Paul Graham in 2007. It's probably one of the oldest accelerators that is there. Their ticket size is around $120,000 per year, and they have two sessions that they do. They have till date funded more than 2,000 startups, and they have got 246 exits. Also, exits is when the funding is done. The funding is done, and they would get returns by selling it to like a bigger a fund, or going the IPO way, or going the SPAC way. So SPAC is basically special purpose acquisition vehicles. It's very famous in US. So either of these kind of exits, right? So till and believe me, there are only 40 people running this whole ship of Y Combinator. There are across the globe. Obviously, local folks come in, but key people are only around 40 people that run this whole ship. Um, Next, there is an accelerator called as TechStars. TechStars is the accelerator behind companies like Uber, or DigitalOcean, or Twilio and SendGrid, and all these kind of companies. So they also have done more than 1,000 startups. They have funded more than 1,000 startups, and they are also probably one of the oldest kind of accelerators that are there. Till date, they have made around $8 billion in profits. And a very interesting thing about them is they they are physically present in 15 countries and can fund in 74 different countries. They also run a minimum a minimum of 47 different types of programs. It can go up to 50 programs, but like they run uh, mini programs for all the folks. Uh, they had 204 exits. Yeah, man, Electron. They are again a lot of exits. The highest is probably Y Combinator again, 246 exits, and $100 billion in revenue. The next that we're going to talk about is an accelerator in India. It is called as VCATS in our startup and VC kind of circle. Most folks would know it as venture catalysts. So they are the accelerator behind companies like Go Mechanic. Go Mechanic is again an Indian kind of a brand, and then Global Esport, or Home Capital, if you guys have heard about that. So they are the VCAT is behind that. So they are neither an accelerator nor an incubator. They are somewhere in between. Uh, the spelling of the Indian accelerator is Venture Catalysts. Venture Catalyst. So they are an integrated kind of an incubator wherein they have the best of both the worlds. um, the accelerator as well as the incubator. So they do a lot of guidance and upskilling and tutoring like an incubator, but they also provide you space, and they do shadowing. They have pitch days and preview days. like the accelerator does. So this is basically created by Amazon, Microsoft, and IBM together, and they are based in almost every top Indian city, and also in, I think, Dubai and London as well, and Hong Kong as well. And the best part is their ticket size is huge. They go from $500,000 to probably $1 million. So that is their best part. So these three were there, and then before going to 500 startups and search, let's talk about 100x VC as well. 100x VC is the accelerator behind Bluelearn as well. So our Bluelearn is funded by 100x VC, and the ticket size that we have is $50,000 to $85,000. So that's the basic starting ticket size that 100x has. I think Sanjay ji was also here last time as a speaker. He talked about a lot of things. So yeah, kudos to him. So we probably know about 100x VC a lot. So we can probably go to Surge. So Surge is another accelerator which is bought by Sequoia. Sequoia Global is a bigger accelerator, which is a company behind funding Apple or Google or Oracle for that matter. So but that is on the global stage. On the Indian stage, so Sequoia turns into Sequoia Surge, and they are behind Khata Book or Bulbul or Scalar, or even for sometimes Zomato and Byju's were also hugely funded by Surge. And the best part about Surge as an accelerator is they have very, very good mentors. So if you have heard of Kunal Shah of Cred, or Girish from Freshworks, or even Mr. Monjal from Unacademy, they are all mentors of Surge. There is also Ankita Bose and Jaideep Burman of Fasos that is there. Yes. So yeah, and uh, the good thing about Surge is it just got started in January of 2019. It's just been like 2 years, and they have funded 29 startups already with probably $100 million. And their seed round starts at $1 to $2 million, which is like a great thing. One of the key focuses they have is around community building kind of products. And they would support you not only for company building and community kind of thing, but they would also act as catalyst for your technical marketing, legal, and your deal making, partnerships, all sorts of things, logistics, all sorts of things. So if you are a kind of an infrastructure or a marketing startup or a product start, like a physical product startup, I think that is also a good idea to get into. The last and but not the least is 500 startups. So 500 startups is behind companies like Canva. Canva is a product that probably all of us use for poster making, our invitations, and all the sorts of things, right? And then Udemy. 500 startups also behind Udemy. 500 startups typically does only technical or techno startups. It is not into other kind of markets. They had 2000 plus startups funded across the globe, and they also, similar to Techstars, around have around 200 exits as we speak. Again, if you'll see, they have very few people working for them. Like I talked about YC having 40 people. They have probably more than that, 150 people, but that's across the globe again. So now 500 startups has 150 people working for them. And the way they work is they work on basis of thematic funds. So they will go by a theme. Let's say we are talking about creator economy, right? So all products to do with creator economy will be addressed by them in this particular, this winter or this summer. So they go as per the thematic thing. The key catch there is, to prevent entries, they have like a fee of $37,000 in 500 startups. So only no nonsense kind of folks are given entry because there is a huge barrier of the fee, right? So I think, so that sums up the six accelerators that I want to talk about. I'm going to definitely share like a master list of all these accelerators and VCs with you. Anything else if you need in that cheat sheet, definitely I can share. I can talk to Viraj and get that across as well. So that's my time, guys. Any other questions you have? Yeah, please feel free to shoot it out. I think my link tree was shared earlier, or else yeah, I can share it again if you guys want to reach out to me. Definitely. Thanks a lot. Hopefully I've added some value to you, and thanks for sticking by for such a long time. All right, we have a couple of last questions we can answer. Please share what to mail or how to mail in the cheat sheet. Yeah, cold mailing is not what I would suggest. Please don't cold mail because you will get very, very cold responses or totally ignored kind of responses. So please don't cold mail. And sir, what do you think about the startup from tier two, tier three cities coming up in say 2, 3 years approaching the Pankaj? So here's the thing, man. Most successful startups are done by people not from that field or not staying in cities. That's a surprising revelation, but that's how it is. So probably a chartered accountant would go and do well in a tech startup, or probably an architect would do well in a tech kind of a startup. That's one thing. So across domains, people migrate and do a lot of startups. That is one thing. And second is tier two and tier three cities. More than 80% of the successful startups are done by folks coming from tier two and tier three cities. So that is it actually makes it easy to approach the VC, because they don't have to approach the VC. The VCs will approach them if you have like a successful grassroots kind of a product, right? So one of my friends, he actually did like a tractor based startup, so sharing of tractors across India. And that's where the VCs approached him, because the idea is so phenomenal and grassroots, right? So if you're solving a grassroots problem, the venture capitalists are always on the lookout. So I hope that answers your question, Pankaj. Uh, yeah, Electron is asking when will I'll try it by tonight to share all these things by tonight. If not tonight, then by tomorrow, pakka. Yeah, Zoom car system for tractors. Yeah, cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. That's my time. Any other questions? Please let me know. I think, yeah, Viraj has already shared this list of Antler and Titan and Java capitalists, and so six of them are there. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Vinay is asking how is it to get it. Okay, ESOPs is a different, a session altogether. There are a lot of things, to discuss in ESOPs, Vinay. Thanks again for your time. We'll definitely discuss some other time. Yeah, man, Pablo. I have been a little busy lately because a lot of things have been going on. Definitely, I'll take more sessions, man. Thanks again. What's the best way to? I'll share my link tree in a while. Maybe I can just do it, man. If I have it handy, I can just do it here. Yeah, I'm sharing my LinkedIn and all these things, but please don't spam. If there are serious things, please give a reference of Bluelearn, and then definitely mention Bluelearn, and then we can take it up, man. Or just mention Viraj also. I'm good with Viraj as well. Awesome, awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll definitely discuss ESOP and other things later on. Thank you so much. Thanks, Viraj. Thanks, Electron. Thanks, Yash. For helping coordinate this. And it was my pleasure to be on this. Thanks, everyone. Be safe, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you for doing this. Thanks, guys, for joining in.